Hey, thanks for stopping into the video today. If you're new here, my name's Justin, and in today's video, I'm going to be explaining exactly what components you need to build a complete Hoymiles solar system with microinverters. But before I get started, I want to point out that this video is not going to show you how to install these components. I have a lot of videos that I have recently put out on installing this system. So if you're looking for an install video, be sure to check those out. I'll leave them in the links in the description below. And everything that I talk about in this video will be in links in the description below as well to help you save some money and point you in the right direction if you're starting to build your own system. And before you start any solar project, the number one thing that you want to do is to reach out to your planning and zoning and your local utility company to make sure that you're following the rules of what it takes to put solar on your property, whether that's on your roof or in ground or however you plan on doing it. Just make sure that you're following the correct steps, because with a microinverter system, you're going to be connected to the grid and they're going to require a solar permit. And I'm going to explain more about that a little bit later in the video, where you can actually get one or have one designed for you, but you're going to have to do a solar permit. So it's going to have to go through your planning and zoning and your local utility company. And before I get into that solar permit, I want to go over the components of the system, because before you can build that solar permit, you need to know exactly what components you're going to need, because that solar permit is going to ask for every one of them. So I'm going to start at the main service center or distribution panel and work my way out to the array. So the first thing that we're going to start with is the solar backfeed breaker. A couple of years ago, I put out a short on how to calculate a solar backfeed breaker, what you would need for a system that you're designing. Also, I did a second short on how to calculate the max breaker size that you could put in your service center. So I'll leave links in the description below to each one of those videos, because they're very important to understand how to calculate those. And I didn't know whether to put this as the number 1 or number 2, but you're going to need PV labels or stickers that you could put on your main service center or your distribution panel, and on different items throughout the solar array. So you're going to have it on your conduit that's stating that it is a solar wiring that's inside of that conduit. You're going to have it on your AC disconnect. You're going to have it in different locations. So there's different places that you could buy these that are already designed. One that comes to mind is PV Labels, and the other one is at Signature Solar. Again, I want to leave links to everything that I discuss in the description below. So it's very important that you check all those links out. But number 2 is going to be the PV labels, and they have to be UV rated labels because they can't be fading over time. Now, coming to the outside, you're going to have an AC disconnect, and this has to be placed within 6 feet of the main service entrance. So that means your meter, I had that be within 6 feet of that. And I think that's going to be pretty common for a lot of different jurisdictions, but everything that I'm talking about in this video is what was required by my jurisdiction. Now, there are different rules to different jurisdictions. That's why I wanted to start this video telling you to reach out to your planning and zoning and your local utility company, because they'll help point you in the right direction with these different requirements. Next, you'll need to determine whether you want to build your own combiner box or you're going to be using the Hoymiles combiner box. And I made a full video on how to install this thing. So if you're going in that direction, be sure to check that video out. I should leave that right up here so you can easily click over. But it is super simple to install. It really, I think anyone can do it. You just got to make sure you take safety first. And if you're not comfortable with assuming the responsibility of installing that or any of these components, be sure to reach out to a licensed electrician. I'm sure there's many in your area that would be able to put this system together really fast, or at least point you in the right direction. But I think if you have a little bit of knowledge with the electricity and you understand how it works and you're willing to assume those risks, building this system is definitely something that you could do. And I would recommend the Hoymiles combiner box versus building your own combiner box, because when you go to put in your solar permit, I can click one button in that solar permit that I'm going to be recommending a little bit later, and it will automatically pull all the information about the combiner box, its UL listings, and everything that you need to submit to your planning and zoning. So my recommendation, buy the Hoymiles combiner box. But if you're looking to save a little bit of money, you can certainly build your own. Whether you're building your own combiner box or you're using the combiner box from Hoymiles, you're going to need to purchase some additional breakers, because each branch that you create on your array, you're going to feed that into a breaker, and this is where it's going to get combined. So with the Hoymiles combiner box, I can tell you that is an Eaton BR style breaker. So those are readily available at any big box store, Amazon, anywhere. You should be able to find those. I use 20 amp because my circuits were rated for that. You can go up to 30 amp in the Hoymiles combiner box. If you're building your own, then you'll need to determine the correct breaker to put inside of your combiner box. Next, I'll talk about conduit, because if you're running it underground, then you'll use schedule 40 conduit underground, and anything that comes above ground, you'll have to use schedule 80 PVC conduit. And the sizing of that conduit will really be determined by how many strings that you've created at your array and what size wire that you'll be using. I would highly recommend to use a 10 gauge wire to start. And if you need to size to an 8 gauge wire, which can get expensive because of an extremely long run, then I would highly recommend doing that. But in most cases, a 10 gauge wire will do it. Now you just got to determine, do you have 1 string, 2 string, 3 string, or 4 strings coming in to your combiner box? And that is going to dictate the size of conduit that you're going to be running. Here's a tip. If you're going to be doing a long run with any type of 90-degree elbows, 45-degree elbows inside the earth itself, now you're going to have 2 exit points that come out of the ground. Those are 90s. I would say upsize your conduit for when you go to pull the wires through it, because you can't pull your wires through without having everything glued up. And if you get a 185-foot run like I have, you definitely want to make sure to upsize your conduit. And I'm so glad that I did that, because it made the pull a lot easier. Didn't make it simple, but it made it easier than if I would have tried to stuff those wires into a smaller conduit that would have been appropriately sized, but the overall pull would have been extremely hard. And here is one other tip on that conduit. For those exit points that are coming out of the ground, use expansion couplings there, because those runs that are going into the combiner box or maybe into your junction box that's over at the array, if you don't have those expansion couplings on there, what happens, the ground starts to settle and it pulls the conduit down, and it would start putting stress on the point of the combiner box or whatever you got it connected to. If you have those expansion couplings on there, it creates a separation at that coupling, and it doesn't create any stress on the entry points of your boxes. Now that we've made it over to the array, the conduit that's coming out of the ground, that's going to be connected to a junction box or a J box. So depending on who you ask, you may hear junction box, you may hear J box. It's exactly the same thing. Some people in solar call it J box. Some people in dealing with the electricians, you're going to hear a junction box. So this is going to act as a transfer from the trunk cable that comes out of the microinverters to the THHN wire that you're using to feed the combiner box. So the trunk cable has an end on it, or you have to cut them, and now you got the wires. You'll take those wires and you'll put it into a Dinkle assembly on one side, and then you'll connect your THHN wiring that you're feeding through your conduit to the other side. So that is how you make the transition from your microinverter to your combiner box. And depending on the location and the placement of your solar array, that will determine the type of racking system that you'll need. I'm going to make 3 recommendations. One for the roof, I used Iron Ridge racking. For my solar carport, it came with its own racking system. So if you're looking to build a ground system from ground up, I would highly recommend the Chiko solar carport gazebo pergola. And I got videos on how I built that thing from ground up. Basically by myself. I had a little bit of help putting up the main beams and the solar panels, but that thing is super sturdy. If you're looking for an alternative, then you can look into EG4 Bright Mount, and that's what I use for my test center solar panels, and those are mobile, so I cut down the actual racking system to make them individual on each one of the solar panels. But those are 3 recommendations that I would put out there if you're looking to just get started with an array. And maybe one of the most important things that you'll need to consider is the solar panels that you'll be using. I'm using Sirius 415 watt bifacial panels, and I am super impressed by these panels. They are the best producing 415 watt solar panel that I've ever tested or used. And I've used different brands, but this one is doing extremely well. Right now, today, I looked at it and it was overproducing the STC rating of 415 because it has that bifacial gain. And I don't have any type of reflective background on it. And I've seen up to 445 watts on it. So this thing actually produces well. But there's several different manufacturers that you can look into. But I would recommend this one simply because it's assembled in Texas. So it's assembled in the US, and I'm going to support that. And they are producing better than any other solar panel at this rating that I've ever tested. So look into your solar panels because they do have different heights on them. They got different sizes, widths, lengths. If you're going with a solar carport, these are a perfect match to that. And if you got them up off the ground and you got a reflective background, you can get up to 535 watts out of these. Now that you've determined the solar panel that you'll be using, you'll need to pick an appropriate microinverter to pair with that solar panel. And in most cases, I'm going to be recommending the Hoymiles HMS 2004T quad microinverter. Although I did use the HMS 1002T microinverter on my carport, that was only because where I wanted to place the microinverter on the C channel versus underneath of the solar panel itself. And before someone attacks me and tells me how much more expensive microinverters are over string inverters, let me point out that Hoymiles offers you a solution as well because they have hybrid inverters, they have AC coupled inverters for microinverters trying to build out a battery bank. They have 3-phase microinverters. They have these microinverters in single, dual, and quad microinverters. They offer a solution for anyone. Now, I do want to argue with you for just a second. These quad microinverters are not more expensive than a quality hybrid inverter, because if I wanted to put 6 of these on my 24 panels at $400 a piece, and I think they're actually $350, but I'm going to say maybe that's going to be the cost after these tariffs kick in, $2,400 for my inverters, and I never have to see them. They're completely out of the way, and I never have to look at them. I never have to hear them run anything. Now, I won't have power if the power goes out, if I don't have battery backup, but they're not more expensive than a hybrid inverter. So that argument is no longer the case. Maybe if you were using the other brand that everybody knows about and you're paying $220 a microinverter, then yeah, maybe they are more expensive. But there's arguments to be said whether you're going microinverters or string inverters. And good thing is Hoymiles offers you a solution for that. Now that you know all the components it's going to take to build your solar system, you'll need a solar permitting software to build your solar permit that you can submit to your planning and zoning in your jurisdiction to get approval. And the one that I've used in the past is Lyra Solar. And I've heard that some people are having problems setting up a new account because their wait list on that is so long. But I've used them on multiple solar systems that I've installed, and I've had really good luck out of them, and it's really paid off a lot. After I completed everything, I put all my inputs in. It cost me $80 to print off my solar permit and to submit it to my jurisdiction to get approval. So I had really good luck out of those guys. There's other ones that I could recommend. Iron Ridge has one that you'll have to just find out where it's at, but it doesn't cover all of the little components. They basically put it down to where you have to use their racking system for their solar permit. So I don't recommend it if you're not using Iron Ridge products, but I would definitely look into this Lyra Solar, because if they don't have something, you can email them and they'll input it. I know from experience, it's what they've done. They don't even know I mentioned them in this video, or I mentioned them in my other videos, but they've done such a great job with the solar permit, and it's really worked out for me that I always recommend them. I wish that would just allow people to sign up for accounts really simple and be able to submit their solar permits to their jurisdiction, because it would really help us small guys out a lot. Now, if you're having problems and you just can't get connected with anybody with a software. There's a gentleman that I've been in contact with here recently down in North Carolina that owns a small business that he builds solar permits for people, and he owns a small distribution business as well that actually sells Hoymiles products and other brands. You might want to reach out to that gentleman. I'll have his information in the description below as well. He hasn't paid me to give his information out. It's just something I do when I find a small business that's trying to do right by DIYers, and I think this gentleman is trying to do that. So if you want to check him out, it's in the link description below. He might be good for you, he might not, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And if you found anything helpful about this video, do me a big favor, smash the thumbs up button because it really does help me out a lot. If you're into solar and you're looking to build your own solar system, or you like power stations, or just seeing test results on all types of different products, you might want to consider subscribing to the channel and tapping that notification bell so when I put out new videos, you get notified. I hope to catch you in my next one.